dive into it. A little bit about myself. My name is Ben Hawkey. If we have never met before, I'm the CEO of a company called Real Growth. And at Real Growth, we specialize in helping agents build their brand, generate leads, build their database. I'm also fortunate enough to be one of the founders of a company called Nurture app, which is a tool that allows agents to effectively nurture and prospect and prospect effectively through text message with their database. So today, thank you so much. I'm excited to join you on this call, Bree. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, should I kick things off with a bit about myself since you've just given your spiel?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was just about to say, Bree, like if anyone doesn't know Bree, you're the Hardcourt's social media trainer.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
my official title is social media content creator. However, that was more so at the start of the role. Now that I've been with Harcourts for nearly 2 years, which is just crazy, it's developed into this training role because I think a lot of people, especially real estate agents, they don't know what they don't know. And, coming in, especially older agents or more traditional valued agents, they don't know social media. They don't know it well. So if they're not really told the skills and, what they need to jump on, they're not really sure. So that's why it's gone from being one thing to everyone just wants to know about social media. So I'm absolutely honored to be on here today. Thank you, Ben.
yeah, thank you. And how did you first get involved with Hardcourts two years ago? How did that all come
So,
up?
what happened was, so while I was doing my communications degree, I was actually a YouTuber. So I would get paid by brands endorsing me and me doing sponsored posts and things like that. And I came to find out that I didn't so much like being the person in front of everyone. I liked what happened in the background and how brands, sold product and things like that through marketing digitally. So I don't know. I saw that and then I feel like when you're an influencer, I hate that word, but when you're an influencer, um, the shelf life is very small when you don't start doing things that you particularly don't want to do that are trending and things like that. And I just got sick of it. And, the numbers were dropping a little bit in terms of the fact that I was doing content that I wanted to do, not so much content that everyone wanted to see. So when I saw this role come up, it was a PA slash social media content creator, PA for Aaron Davis. If anyone knows Aaron Davis, auctioneer, crazy guy, but love him to bits. He interviewed me. He scared the life out of me, but it was just awesome. So that's how that came about. This is my first ever proper job other than being self-employed, and it's just been the most incredible thing. I just absolutely love the Harcourts network, and yeah, it's amazing to network with everyone, and it's just the best.
Yeah. And so what does your day-to-day look like now as you've moved into that social media trainer role?
It's more so every day is different, as you can imagine. So, for example, today I'm doing this. I've got meetings during the day. Then I'm going to a location to film a whole bunch of content for 3 hours, which I'll then come back and edit and schedule and everything like that. So every day is different. Also, some days I could be down in Christchurch helping out a team that may not know where to start when it comes to social media. So yeah, every day is different, but it's always exciting.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I guess just to start things off, I'm keen to get your opinion. Why do you believe social media is such an important channel and platform for agents to be using?
Yeah.
And
I think, sorry.
and then do you have any examples of some agents who are successfully using it in their business that's actually getting real results? If that makes when I mean real results, I mean businesses coming in the door because of the activity they're doing on social media. But yeah, just I guess to kick things off, what why do you believe it's such an important opportunity for agents?
Absolutely. I think that I put myself in the mindset of a consumer and I'm 24, so I'm in that first home buyer bracket. And the first thing that I do whenever I want to do business with someone or a new company that I haven't heard much about that isn't, your standard global brands is I search for them on social media. And if they've got no presence or they've got two posts in 3 years, I automatically, their credibility just drops for me because I think, why are they not taking advantage of such a strong platform to use. And also, social media advertising is incredibly cheap compared to, your mainstream advertising. It's so much more targeted and you get all the results, in the back end of everything. It's once you know how to work it, it's very, very easy to have a little cost for a big result. So I just think that, for real estate, when you're in the job of connecting with people, you've got to be, as a real estate agent, you've got to be a number one negotiator and a number one marketer. And if you're not jumping on social media to be a number one marketer, you're very, very behind. So that's sort of my idea of it and why I'm so passionate about it. Someone that I do use as an example of a really good agent who builds their personal brand through social media is Caleb Griffin. He used to be with Harcourt's Gold, but he's just gone on to open his own agency, which is super exciting for him. But he does a lot of video content and he really establishes authority within the areas that he wants to dominate. So I'll speak a bit about the content ideas that I think that people should do if they want to jump on that. But he's definitely someone that I think is awesome. Also, Alex Dunn from Harcourt's New Age. So he is an example of someone who is committed to storytelling. So he loves to, instead of, which I'll speak about the importance of soon as well, instead of just putting up a post that says just sold with the property photo, he shares the story behind the transaction. So I think those two are really good examples of social media done right.
Right. Yeah, it's great to just have some examples for people to then go and in their own time go, okay, I'm going to check out Caleb Griffin. Caleb's down in Christchurch
Yeah.
and Alex Dunn's up in Auckland. Funnily enough, I know both those guys. And
Guys.
that's awesome. That's awesome that you use them as examples.
Yeah.
Before we dive into kind of, what type of content the agents should be creating in order to position themselves as that local real estate expert, what would you say are some of the common mistakes that you see agents make when it comes to social media? Just some of the kind of common mistakes or pitfalls that you see people falling into.
I think there's probably two main ones. Number one is using platforms when they don't know the content that's suitable for the platforms. For example, if someone, I always say this to agents, jump on as many social media platforms as you can. However, if you're going on to TikTok, wanting to advertise your real estate career, you need to spend time on the app. You can't just, put out content that you have no idea what is suitable for the app. TikTok is a weird app and I'm personally addicted to it. But your typical slideshows with like a random track underneath it with these black bars up and down showcasing a listing, it's not suitable for TikTok. So I'd say people spend so much time creating content not knowing what actually works for the platform, which is why it's important to, stay in the loop of what's going on. The second one would be, I think the pitfall is that people expect to produce one amazing piece of content and have that be, their social media content done for the year. You have to have that consistency, because if I go to a business's profile and I see they've got one amazing video and then there's no other posts, or the other posts are just, here and there weird posts, it builds no authority and it builds there's a lack of trust there. You can't just expect one, thing to bang. So you've got to be consistent and you've got to know what's right for the platforms. I'd say that those are the main two that I focus on, other than, the obvious ones.
Yeah, that's great. Consistency, I think, is probably one of the key ones that I've seen as well, is just sticking to it and playing that long-term game. One other thing that I don't know if you agree on this, but I think a lot of agents are creating content for themselves, but they're not creating content for their audience, their local homeowners. So they're posting their just solds, their awards, all the things that they want to share, but they're not creating the content that their audience wants to see. And I think as an agent and as a business owner, we need to treat social media like a party. People go to a party to communicate and to connect and have
Nice analogy.
Yeah. And so if you're connecting and having conversations with people, and then you just turn up to the party and just saying, hey, look at me, I'm awesome, look how many properties I've sold, and I'm so cool, you're not going to be very welcome at the party. People aren't really going to engage with you. And so treat social media like a party in terms of, you know, have conversations that people actually want to have conversations about. And so when I mean that, I mean create content that people actually want to engage with. And we'll talk about the type of content down the.
I completely agree with that. And I think that where a lot of agents do fall into that is they see so many other agents do that. So therefore they think, well, this is what I must need to do. This is all social media is for. They put budget into it. And then they think, well, I haven't got any leads from this. I haven't got any engagement from this. And then they write it off. Social media is old news when, yeah, I completely agree with what you said.
So you mentioned like when we had this conversation before we jumped on that you kind of had a bit of a 6-point content checklist. And
Yep.
but so was this based around the type of content agents should be creating in order to
Mhm.
build authority? Are we able to kind of dive into that a little bit more about,
Yeah.
how to build authority on these platforms?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like a lot of agents don't know where to start when it comes with content, when it comes for content. And you want to, I'd say the most important thing is to narrow down what your goal is. So if you want to know the area that you want to dominate in real estate. So say, for example, that my area that I wanted to dominate was Epsom in Auckland, right? So these are what I would do to dominate that area. I'd also put budget into boosting these things to target that and get the most value out of my time. So number one is, and this is based on what I've seen work for other agents that I've done work with as well. So number one, make content about the education and healthcare facilities in the area. This is quite important because it shows that you care about life after the transaction, and you've got to build that picture of just because you're selling a house, it's not just a house, it's a lifestyle. So they need to know where they can take the kids to school, where they can go if they're in trouble with their health, things like that. And it shows that you actually care. So that would be number one, making anything around healthcare and education systems within that target area.
Yeah.
Number two would be you got to make sure that you're doing your data reporting. Now, I see a lot of agents go wrong with this where they get that Ryan's monthly data report, they screenshot it, and then they post it with no context. For a potential client, that does absolutely nothing. So, what you need to do is you need to take that data that's very easy to access. I'm no real estate agent, but I get that data monthly. And you need to pull out why those metrics and why those statistics are important. If the median house prices in your area have gone up, explain to homeowners why that's important, because it means that they'll get more return on their sale. Don't just tell them the information, tell them why it matters to them. Also, your trade me statistics, things like that, how many homes are on the market in your area. It just helps them to build more of a picture of why these data pieces and statistics matter to them, rather than you just showing that you have access to Ryan's.
Yeah.
Number three would be making content around supporting small businesses. Now, this is something that I see a lot of agents do, which I'm so happy with, collaborating with local restaurants, bars. This is the best cafe in the town to get a coffee from. I love, seeing George every morning when I get my croissant, things like that. It actually is very multi beneficial, because not only are you promoting a small business, you're showing that you're connected within the community. And then that small business is very likely to do the same for you. If they're thinking of a real estate agency that they want to promote, it's that,
Yeah.
exactly. It works both ways. Number four would be,
I
I
just
think,
want that actually, Bree,
yeah,
while
yeah,
we're,
jump in.
yeah, I just want to jump in on that before we go off that again. I think the great thing about interviewing and having and speaking with local businesses and local just people in the community is that if they're already trusted and respected, and you are alongside them, speaking to them, interviewing them, you naturally, human nature, become trusted by association as well. If everyone trusts this local business who's been in the business for 20 years and you're there interviewing them, talking to them, you become trusted by association. And so it's a great way of kind of piggybacking off that as well. So I just wanted to add that there because
Yeah.
that's a really powerful way of building trust in your local market, even if you are completely new.
Yeah. And it's also showing that you care about supporting local businesses. Like things in the past few years have been extremely hard for local businesses. So to know that they had the support of another business or business person in the area is huge. And I completely agree with what you just said, Ben. Um, Also, another thing, number 4 would be reporting on current events. So in 2023, we saw a massive surge in the popularity of article commentary in video form. So I think what that means for real estate agents is pulling any, news headlines or articles that have a lot of industry terms or a lot of, things that make sense to you being in the industry, but potentially don't make sense to a seller or a buyer in that industry. Take that article, break it down, and make it very easily digestible. Also, it shows that you're in the know. You know what's happening. You know how to maximize value for your sellers, help your buyers as much as possible. And also, a really easy way to do this, which is what I do, is by turning on Google Alerts. So you can turn on Google Alerts, which means you type in a word. So I've got social media, I've got auction, and I've got real estate put into Google Alerts. And every night I get sent all the articles that are relevant to those keywords sent to my email. So it makes it really easy if you don't always have time to be scouring. But yeah, I just think making that news and those things that people probably don't really understand easily digestible also asserts you as an expert. So that's
And
really useful to do.
awesome. And just so I understand it correctly and everyone else understands it,
Yep.
as a content idea, could you screenshot, say, a stuff news article from your phone and have that as like a green screen behind you, and then you could talk about the article? Is that kind of like an idea that you?
100%. That's probably, and you'll probably know this, Ben, because you're in this. That's probably the most engaging way statistically to share this information. So yeah, like Ben said, if you see a article come up about some particularly hot information for first home buyers, screenshot that, use it as a green screen behind you, break it down, and then also give your expertise at the end and just put in that thing. If you want someone who knows, what's going on, who stays on top of the current events, contact me, sort of thing. So yeah, 100%, Ben.
Awesome.
Also, sorry, what were you going to say?
No, sorry, that's
Oh,
perfect.
no, no. Sorry. Number 5 would be, I think that first home buyer, I spoke with the client lead at TikTok not so long ago, and she said that first home buyer content is just huge at the moment. And it probably will be for a very long time, especially because TikTok's demographic is in that first home buyer, a predominant demographic is within that first home buyer bracket. So anything that you can share around your personal experience with first home buyers, or I was actually speaking with my good friend Lisa Westerby the other week, and she said that when she purchased her first house, although she's a real estate agent, she had no idea what you were meant to do, whether you meant to turn the electric on at this time, turn the water on at this time. So creating content around that. And she's then taken those learnings and put them into her work as a real estate agent. But taking those learnings that have been real life for you and putting those out there on social media is really, really important because it shows that you care. And even if you're not going to get direct business out of it, it shows that you're a person before you're a real estate agent, which I think the lines can be blurry sometimes because we see, often the real estate agent getting out of the Ferrari dripped in Gucci and things like that, whereas you want to appear more human. So that's definitely a good one to do. And number 6, which I touched on earlier, but that storytelling piece is huge. I think that stories are what, stick the most in people's heads, and it really builds momentum around the sale instead of slapping up a post of a property with just sold plastered all over it and then saying just sold and then the address post. Actually take time to craft a little caption about what happened in the sale. I worked with an agent and an auctioneer in Christchurch to craft a little story for them about, it was just an old couple. They'd lived in the house that they'd sold at auction for years and years. I think it was their only house that they'd ever lived in. And now they were moving on to the retirement home and things like that. And this is a very common story. And no matter how basic the story be, there's always something in there that's going to attract people and going to stick them to it. So when we put out that story of the couple that sold their house at auction, organically that got picked up by several news outlets. It got put in print media, everything like that. So a post that says just sold of that property would not end up in those news outlets. So it's those stories that really stick with people. And I think that's why I'm such an advocate on taking that time to share them. So
Yeah.
those are sort of that was quite long-winded, but those are
No,
sort of my 6 ideas of really how to dominate the area that you want to dominate.
that makes complete sense. It's great to always have a bit of a checklist. So what can you see some of the biggest barriers agents are facing in terms of actually doing it? Because it sounds great, right? And we could be writing notes right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. But I think one of the biggest barriers is, okay, Brie, I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
So, okay, so what can we do to, remove these barriers and do this,
Mm. Yeah, 100%. And it's funny because I talk to people all the time and I say to them at the end, I'm going to walk out of here. You're going to have all this excitement, and then 1 hour later, oh, can't be bothered. Too much to do. Got an appraisal to do, and all that stuff. And I completely understand. You are very busy people. However, I feel like the best social media presences are built from people who are very busy. So they're always doing something. There's always a story to tell, and actually getting into the routine and the habit of creating time in your day, or just having that light bulb that goes off thinking this would be a good post. It's not about dedicating a whole day in your week to social media, just as long as it's staying in your mind. I think that's the most important part. And I do understand that for those who have never really gone into social media before, it can seem a little bit daunting. However, most of the world are social media users for leisure. If you just translate some of that time into your business, I think you'll find that you'll have a lot more time for, social media than you actually think you do. So it's all relative, right? Like a lot of people have a lot going on, a lot of people get their PAs and things to do it. But if growing and dominating in real estate and in marketing, showing that you're a number one marketer is important to you, then you'll make the time for social media. That's what I believe.
I love it. That makes complete sense. So I've got a bit of a strategy that I implemented into my business, and
Yeah.
I'm keen to get your thoughts on this. And I think agents can do this as well. And it kind of goes back to what you said before about the local businesses. But my strategy, which I'd love to share with the agents, which will help them be more efficient with their time, would be like you said, schedule it in your calendar, Bria, and prioritize it. But a simple strategy for 2024 that I think you guys could implement into your business is interview local business owners, the local principal, the local mortgage broker, the interior designer, the builder, the lawyer. Interview local experts and interview local businesses, and just do one interview every 2 weeks for 30 minutes, and ask them 10 interesting, engaging questions about them and their business, and then 10 questions. You roll that up, you record that for 30 minutes, you upload that to a tool such as Opus Clip, which I'm sure you're aware of, or what I think you've mentioned Get Munch,
Yep. Yep.
which is an AI tool which will automatically create shorter video clips from that 30-minute interview. So if you've got 30 minutes every 2 weeks, just sit down, interview a local expert or someone in the community or a business owner, give it to your PA who can upload it to Opus Clip. They'll create 10 videos. And if you can do that, 26 interviews a year, one every 2 weeks, that's 260 videos. So
Such a good strategy.
it's a really simple strategy. And obviously we're doing the strategy right now. Like
Yeah,
we're having a conversation, Brie, you and I, and this is going to get uploaded
that's
to
right.
Opus Clip, and it's
Mhm.
going to put out 15 videos.
Yeah.
Now, I've spent half an hour to an hour, we're having this conversation, but now I've created 10 videos. And so you don't always have to be writing video scripts or overthinking it. You can
No, I think when people overscript things, it never works out right. People come across almost robotic, and you want to, as a real estate agent, you want to be as approachable as possible. So don't, yeah, completely agree. That's such a good way to frame it, Ben.
I think, yeah, if that's kind of strategy you want to take away today, I think the interview strategy, ideally in person, if you can, is a great way of creating a lot of content really quickly, and it's a really efficient way of doing it with your time. Bree, have you anything further you want to share on the content or social media side? You mentioned TikTok at the start. You know,
Yeah.
TikTok's very unfamiliar to me. But yeah, what are your thoughts on these other like TikTok, these emerging social media platforms?
Yeah, well, a lot of people are reluctant to use TikTok because they think, well, it's just a bunch of, 15-year-olds or 14-year-olds doing dancing and things like that, which, to be fair, it was the case before lockdown. However, when lockdown came around and everyone suddenly had all this time, which they didn't know how to use, and they didn't know how to connect with new people, TikTok slowly started moving to their predominant in New Zealand, their predominant demographic being that first home buyer market, those mid-20s to mid-30s. So I think that is very important. And also, TikTok in the last few months of 2023 actually partnered with Google. So what that's going to mean is we're going to start seeing, how when you search something, YouTube videos pop up sometimes? What we're going to start seeing coming through to 2024 is TikToks are now going to start popping up. So I think what they did was they took the learning that I think I read in something or saw a TikTok on it, funnily enough, the other day, that social media platforms are soon going to overtake Google, Yahoo, everything like that as the predominant search engine that people are using. So I think they recognized how important that engaging, fast, short-paced clip uh, format is, and they've decided to collaborate. So if you're doing TikToks, or if you want to jump onto TikTok, creating anything with, the caption being best agent in insert area, best agent in Epsom, or how to sell your home in 2024, if you're creating something like that with the caption being that, when people search those terms into Google, even those who don't want anything to do with TikTok are now going to be met with your face. So I thought that was quite an interesting development.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. I couldn't even see that happening, to be honest.
Yeah,
Google collaborating, so
I
that's
know.
before we dive into the Q&A,
Yeah.
like guys, everyone have a think about some questions you'd like to ask Bree and just drop them in the Q&A chat. But before we dive into it, I wanted to highlight one other thing, which was, you know, the biggest problem businesses have and agents have when you're using social media is making sure that you're getting seen by the right people. No one really cares. Like, it's not going to add value to your business if you have a bunch of people in America or India watching your video content, right? You want to be targeting, like you said, if you're focusing on dominating Epsom, you want to be getting your content in front of Epsom homeowners. Now, I've got a couple of tips, and then I'd love for you to jump in,
Yeah,
Bree.
love to hear them.
But one of the tips I would recommend is make sure that your content is like area specific. So it's like, instead of what can you buy for 600,000, and it's what can you buy for 600,000 in Timaru, right? Or the not this my property market update. It's the Papakura market update for February. So we're being very clear in our headlines, in our copy, and what we say on who we're talking to. That's going to help you appear. If it takes off, it's going to appear in front of the right people. People are going to engage with it if it's relevant to them. But the other strategy that I've found that's worked really, really well for my business recently is actually adding a little bit of a paid element into it. So just dedicating $5 a day to pushing my content to my ideal audience, forcing the content in front of the right people, and not leaving it up to the algorithm or luck or anything like that, because if I'm going to put a lot of my time and energy into creating content, I don't want it to be seen by people who aren't interested in our services. So if you're an agent who wants to get your content seen by your local audience, maybe consider putting $5 aside, $5 aside every single day for the life of your business. That's what I did. $5 a day I'm willing to dedicate to branding and getting that content out there. And what I've found is by getting very targeted with the content, the engagement has gone up because the people who are watching it are the ones that find it interesting.
And they completely resonate with it, right? When you provide value, the business comes in, no matter what. So I almost think, and sorry to cut you off, but I just completely agree with what you're saying. I almost think it's essential for real estate agents to have a budget nowadays, because if there's so much oversaturation in the marketplace of real estate agents who think they're number one and blah 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 blah, but if you're just like crossing your fingers and hoping for a miracle, it's not always going to come. As much as social media is down to luck a lot of the time, yeah, I completely agree when you say it's essential to put some budget in.
I always like to give actionable tips and advice on these webinars. And so what I've done, I've actually put something together for you guys very briefly on what you guys can do going away from today. So I call this mindshare marketing. I call it my mindshare marketing strategy. And it's basically going to allow you to guarantee that the right people see your content. And I'm just going to break it down and I'll show you some screenshots and then we can move to Q&A. But I just wanted to, and jump in with any questions as well if you have any questions. But what you want to do is you want to set up Facebook Ads Manager if you don't have it already. And then you want to create an ad campaign. And if it's going to be video content, I want your objective to be video views. Our goal for this is to get our content in front of people and generate as much exposure as possible. We're going to build what we call our target audiences. These are the people we want out to see our content. So it's going to be geo-targeted based on the location, but also upload the people, the emails and the phone numbers from the people on your database, upload them into Facebook. Make sure the pixel is on your website. Make sure that you're retargeting everyone who's engaged or previously engaged with your content in the past and follow you. But make sure as well that it's only targeting the people in your farm area as well. So if someone follows you or and lives in India, they're still not going to see it, even if they do follow you, because we're only targeting people in this geolocation. And then what you want to do is you want to start, every time you post, you want to create an ad and add that post as an ad campaign. And you're going to have 1 to 2 ads running at a time. And I'll show you what it looks like visually. So you're going to create what I call like a top of funnel marketing campaign. You're going to create an ad audience. I've called it warm audience. Make sure you turn targeting expansion on. So you're going to go outside of that audience as well if you don't have a large audience. And what you're going to do is you're always going to have at least 2 ads running. And these are posts that I've posted on on my social media before. And then I've just turned them into ads. And just looking over here, I'm prioritizing and running ads if they get great engagement. So like my objective is to get people to watch. So through plays is someone who's watched at least 15 seconds of the video. And so, we're looking down here, cost per through play is the metric I'm looking at. The lower the cost it is to get someone to watch at least 15 seconds, the more, this content is resonating with people, right? So like 1 cent per 15 seconds. Average watch time, 33 seconds. So the average person's watching 33 seconds of the video, whereas up here, average watch time's 5 seconds. So it's kind of telling me, this type of content is really resonating with people and maybe not so much up here. But you can see I've always got 2 ad campaigns running live. When I post something new, I turn the lowest performing one off and I add that as a new one. And so over only 3 months, we've had I moved my mouse, but we've had over 112,000 impressions. 50,000 of them have watched at least 15 seconds of that video. And we've only spent, which is the most important part of this, $540. So we've spent 540 bucks and we've had 50,000 through plays. So it's not going to break your budget using social media. $5 a day is not a huge budget to put aside, but it's the consistency that will drive the value. It's not just boosting the odd post every now and then for, you know, a couple of $100. It's about, no, $5 a day, every day, you know, every single day. And so that's my kind of takeaway. If people want to action something, how can I use paid advertising? This would be kind of my strategy on doing that, because I've seen it work really, really well for my business, and we're doing it for agents as well.
Really good intel. I hope that, yeah, because the funny thing is when you're explaining these things, it looks a lot harder than it actually is to craft, right? So I think anyone that's on this webinar now, if you just follow those steps that Ben spoke about, you'll actually discover, okay, it takes a little bit of time to get used to, but it's not as hard as you believe it is, especially for the return. So really good insights, Ben.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to, you know, try that out and get back to me and let me know how it's going for your business. If you want someone to do it for you, get in touch with me after that. We have packages starting at $500. Anyway, I go off topic, but we can do that for you as well if you would like.
Gotta get that promo in.
Yeah, got to get the promo in. If it's overwhelming for people, happy to help them there as well. So before we move on to the Q&A side of things, Bree, do you have any kind of tools or resources or, you know, things that you would recommend agents look into?
There's so definitely the one that we spoke about, which you have your own variation of, which basically does the same thing. Bella actually asked what the name of the AI tool was. So for me, it's Munch, Get Munch AI. What's the one that you use, Ben?
Opus Clip, OPUSCLIP. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure that they both do the same thing. So what it does is you upload a long form piece of content, and what it'll do is it'll listen to the words that you're speaking about, scan the keywords, and, you know, relate that to what's trending on the internet. So if you know, first home buyer, for example, is trending on the internet and you've spoken about that, the AI platform knows that and will then chop it down into a clip. So that's one that I really recommend people have a look into. And it just totally makes sense if you're short on time and, you know, short on resources. The next one I always recommend as well is, this is way more of a well-known one, but CapCut. So when you've got a property listing video, that's, you know, it's probably a beautiful 2.5 minute video. You don't really want to be uploading that landscape video to Instagram Reels, TikTok, Facebook Reels. What you want to do is use an app like CapCut to make a punchy, you know, 7-second glimpse into the property that makes sense for the platform. So those are the main two that I use, or that I recommend, I should say. I also, you know, ChatGPT as well. So we all know about ChatGPT, but ChatGPT is also a really good idea for if you are short on ideas, you know, typing in something like, what are common questions first home buyers have? It'll come up with a list of questions. If you make a video with, you know, answering each of those questions, you've got 12 pieces of content in a couple minutes. So using things like that to your advantage to make your life easier is so beneficial. So those would be the top ones that I'd recommend.
Cool, yeah. And I think a lot of videographers now are offering to do vertical videos for social media as well. So you can
There's strength in it.
yeah. Awesome. So questions just before we finish things off, Shane. If you have a sales area on the outskirts of Auckland, we know that Aucklanders are a large part of the buyers. All right, so this is more from a targeting. Okay, so this is more from a targeting point of view. Maybe if you're trying to target buyers.
Did you want to answer this, Ben, or did you want me to?
I'll read it out and see if you have a sales area on the outskirts of Auckland, you know that a lot of Aucklanders are a large part of the buyers' clientele. How do you target that audience?
So I would say, you know, we spoke about dominating a certain area, but that doesn't mean that a property listing needs to be treated the same way. If a listing has clientele that, or potential buyers in another area that, it's well established, that is the target audience. Therefore, target that area. So just because it's in a certain area and you want to dominate that area, you kind of treat listings a little bit differently because, yeah, it that's the target audience. So yeah, target that area. So if you've got people in Auckland that may be a buyer for that property, target Auckland.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. And Bella asked, do you think Canva is also a good tool? Like, do you recommend Canva?
Yeah, I think when used appropriately, Canva is a great tool. However, when I say appropriately, I mean try to refrain from, especially if you've got within your real estate brand standards, try to refrain from using their crazy templates with a million things going on, 600 different types of text, things like that. Using Canva can be very, very good at establishing, consistency within your static image posts or even your videos. However, don't try not to get carried away with all of the things that they offer you, because sometimes less is more.
Yeah. Oh, I can add my logo. I can add this, and I can add
Yeah,
this.
yeah. I can
And
add my phone number, my picture, my home address, blood type, everything. Just try and, avoid that.
yeah, that makes complete sense. Awesome. Well, one more question, just in time, Shannon. Are platforms like LinkedIn still important, or should the focus be on more trending platforms?
Okay, so for LinkedIn is where you go to make business connections. You're not always going to want to promote a listing. This is actually different if you're a commercial agent. When I work with commercial agents, I say to them actually using LinkedIn to promote their listings and promote their business is quite important because they're dealing with a different level of person. However, I think if you are looking to build your brand as a real estate agent and your predominant focus is to engage with new clients, you do want to be focusing on the Facebook, the Instagram, definitely those two. Master TikTok, maybe if you master Instagram and Facebook, then jump onto TikTok. But LinkedIn is for building yourself as a reputable person within the industry that people may want to refer properties to, rather than a client finding you on LinkedIn and wanting to sell their house with you. Would you agree with that, Ben?
I think all sorts of it just depends. Yeah, I think LinkedIn's a great opportunity to build connections, and I think that you probably got a slightly older demographic on
Yeah.
LinkedIn compared to TikTok, and it's just about the content. You probably want to be just tailoring the content slightly differently on LinkedIn compared to some of the other platforms.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
wouldn't be
agree.
promoting my listings on LinkedIn.
No.
Probably not the place for it.
Yeah,
But yeah, 100%. I think it's a great way to network with other local business owners. Local business owners, they've got to sell houses as well.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, it's all about the way that you look at it, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
And Bella, oh yeah, we'll send out the recording as well. So that's all good. Hey, for Bree, on behalf of everyone else on this call, thank you so much for spending the 30 minutes, 35 minutes with us today to educate us on social media. And I hope it's inspired a lot of agents to get out of their comfort zone and start creating some content and building their brand in their area. So really thank you so much for your time, Bree.
Oh, you're so welcome. And if anyone wants any further help from me, you'll just have to join Harcourts. Thanks, Ben.
No worries. Hey, see you guys. Thanks so much.
See ya.
Bye.